It feels very, very beautiful. This is a journey over a couple of years, and very, very interesting people from around the world converging to tell a story that had sat with Dr. Susan Lim for a while, and that she wanted to say it to the world with this kind of storytelling, color, imagination, music, art, all coming together. And much as everybody here is pretty accomplished one or two, but I had a chat with Susan. So what I really like is what I told them yesterday. I made it a point to tell her that all along this journey has been really bridged, inch by inch with honesty. you So, and
So,
that honesty has actually spawned passion, ambition. That itself is actually so beautiful to me. It's about the soul mingling with the cosmos, it's getting out there, you know. And for me, in parts of the story, in the story that Dr. Susan Lim and Christina Teen have, envisioned and written and lyrically charged me for the song. The story has a special place with the characters, with alpacas. For me, when the song had come to me in terms of the idea and lyric, I had just lost my father. So when I sat down, actually, it was in my home in Assam, Jorhat, Assam, and here is Susan sending her ideas across to me, and there I am in the house. I'm thinking of my father and how he's become this star in the universe or the cosmos. And so actually, though the story had so much impact and written so well, conceived so well, but you know, my father was also like a guiding light on how this is going to be. So it was written from a dual emotion, in terms of melody, in terms of the way I chose to kind of get in music onto Susan's words. It was about loss, or it was also about coming back in another form. Maybe you know, some questions are, uh, some questions have very different answers. So for me, it just worked in a very different way. So to bring star into the cosmic clouds into context, it is part of the Cosmic Rhapsody. So the Cosmic Rhapsody comprises of uh, uh, the orchestral soundtracks which have been recorded by the Royal Philharmonic and Abbey Road Studios and released on Decca Classics. Then there is an album of songs, pop songs, which have been taken, the ideas of which have been taken from popular culture. Pop, I would say we have expanded onto rock, some hip hop, soul. It is a mix bag of things. And then there's an animated feature film, The Cosmic Rhapsody. So this is the overhanging project and idea. And Star Among the Cosmic Clouds is a section which turns into a part of the story, which turns into the song. So it's meant to be the first single to be released from the pop album. And to bring that to clarity, there's Killian Donnelly who's sung the song here, right out of Abbey Road Studios. There's me who's done the composer's version, and then there's a grand, version with Tom Ball and the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. So that's a grand thing. So we have three different versions of the song. So Star Among the Cosmic Clouds, it's the story of sacrifice and immortality by Lavi, a purple alpaca. which heroically ignited the mystical, magical orb, and it scattered itself into purple dust, scattering through the atmosphere and clearing up the dust. So there is a sense of mysticism, magic, life, and afterlife here. So there are many ways that I see this. There's ways which have been written, and there are ways you can see this. So this is in the space. Cosmic Rhapsody was, the whole thing was a leap into space and try to understand where we are going with space, the problems with space, where the future was. This is a very, very important segment of the Cosmic Rhapsody, and it happens with the first single to be released from the pop album. So here we are completely in space looking at purple. Brian May he has been a musician, but he's though you say he's in rock arenas, he's a thinking man's musician. You know what I mean? And over time, those songs of which he has been part of with Queen, uh, you know, his is like the other voice which is trying to tell you something that you're not hearing. It's like you try to pick on a conversation and you try to understand what you've not heard or what is something subliminal. That is Brian May telling you that there's a lot more going in the song than what is the tangible, apparent projection. Brian May in this song and over time has influenced musicians like me to dabble in areas which are not conventional in terms of songwriting. And I think somebody like him has helped me in every way to understand where somebody like Susan Lim, Dr. Susan Lim comes from. Just to know that music can be the vehicle for many different ideas, many different stories, many different journeys. That's what Brian May did. If you're talking about Queen, there's the whole Bohemian Rhapsody, which everybody understands. There's another one, Bites the Dust. There's We Are the Champions. There's Bicycle Race. There's Radio Gaga. There's Flash. I think one of the biggest vessels of storytelling, I think slightly underrated. But, the bowl which had so much was Queen. And it so happened that Freddie Mercury was the front man. But I think in terms of the whole ideatic journey, it was Brian May who held it together for me. And listening to him over time and him having and being part of this journey, I think because I had a guru like that in my mind, Susan comes from a place of science, which is sometimes imperceptible to me. I'm not a style student anymore, but then I try to get on the research. But that's quite, and some science now is, though we get to read about it and it's accessible, but the future can be an impenetrable fortress. But then it takes a Dr. Susan Lim to break it down to a musician like me. And then turn it into melody, which respects what she wants to say. What I mean to say is not a tangible, some influences are not tangible, but they get through into you. They get into your blood. And then you understand that, you have to be easier. You have to relax to understand this. It definitely did. And like they say, music is an escape. Though I think escape is not the rightest word. It's just a technical word which tells you what it is. So it just gave me like a portal into understanding. Maybe Susan framed the journey with which I would remember my father in his afterlife, in his passing on. I hadn't framed words, I hadn't framed ideas. But with what she gave me a kind of language a kind of, a vehicle with which I would always remember my father. You know, in Susan's absence, I don't think this would have happened this way. And and I'm not saying this just because it's reached the Royal Philharmonic. And but the fact that my father was a violinist, and then there are the bestest violins of the world playing the melody. Like I tell Susan, like, this coming together is serendipity of another kind, you know. And you will forgive me because, Susan comes from a place of pure science and, and service. I probably come from a place of escape of what music can do. And, but it was destiny that Susan handed me my escape, you know. It's like and she gave me a portal. She said, Joy, you do this. Let the bestest memories of your father turn into a song. Not just a song, but a bigger song that, we are all going to celebrate. This is destiny. I might not have done this 10 years down the line or 5 years down the line, but it happened then and there. So, I don't know if I'm making sense, but it makes very different sense to me as to how things come about, and that this song had to land on me, I wouldn't have found my spaceship to escape, but Susan just gave me this, Joy, this is your spaceship. Fly into the universe you want to. And it's been an infinite ride with Cosmic Rhapsody, with Star, with Susan, with my father. Probably he's in some other realm. I still have to come to terms with it. That's a great question. I hope they understand loss for what it is with some pragmatism, because it is a form that changes into another. Just because you've lost something that you understood doesn't mean that loss has dissolved into nothing. Maybe it has changed into something that requires a different understanding of the future form of that loss. There is energy that has changed form. It can be whatever you want to be. The universe of the mind is also an infinite universe, like the physical universe. I hope they understand what to do with loss, how we could help turn something into something more pure, something more cleaner, Maybe you've just gone through your tunnels, which were clogged, and you just see light at the other side. And on a song like this, people will take in very different. They'll have very different takebacks. My friends called me yesterday from the northeast of India and Assam, and they really love the work Folklore. And they said, we are talking of the future, and then you're talking of folklore. Essentially, there is no past, there is no present. It's one continuum. Right? There wasn't a yesterday. If you ask me, I get it. There wasn't a yesterday. There is now with my dad. There is the now where Susan, Christina, Joi Barua, Amano Martin, Jerome, Matt, all of us, there's a now that we are sailing on. The ideas of now. And tomorrow is just a technical notion. This exercise has completely reshaped my idea of time and life. This one, especially. As you know, as I said it, and this has existed on some material before. So it is the story emphasizes Cosmic Rhapsody. The story emphasizes humanity's journey into a brave new world of space exploration. The Allen story has always been about pushing the boundaries of science and exploring what it means to be human in an ever-changing technological landscape. Music has been used as an art form to express what words cannot simply convey. You know, uh, Fleshing it out into other layers of comprehension. The limitless nature of human imagination, identity, and the infinite potential to expand as the consciousness in the stars of the cosmic clouds. With Cosmic Rhapsody, the second opus of the Allen trilogy. We are embarking on an adventure into space. And the album has about 17 songs. And in this step up in every way, with work on, the the limb fantasy. This, the theme really came around. This was after the first, journey together. The songs have very intense concentration into the subjects and storylines that have been divided into chapters. You find the music more intense. The Royal Philharmonic, when it played, it it really came alive. And even though we played and we understood this music for a while, it meant everything to have it to hear it live. And we are from different countries, continents. But when an Indian goes into Abbey Road Studios and then you hear a Killian Donnelly who has a Phantom movie, and he has a particular kind of delivery, and he's come into the studio, and I think he came in with his coach, manager, and he'd heard the song before, but then I was teaching the song to him in the studio, and I'm an untrained musician, and Killian has so much more training. But for him to understand that song in the studio, then I went to him in the booth. I emphasized a few things. Likewise with Tom Ball, to understand that kind of training, trying to get what I'm saying. I'm a composer. It is so many things, so layered. The whole team you're writing down in India. I'm an untrained musician. No, I don't know writing. I can't read music. But the way Manu Martin, Matthew Amyard, Jerome, principal producers, and the musician's friend, they would write it on a piece of paper. And that would be the one piece of paper. It was like a page of the Holy Bible for everybody. They would go at it from, these are very new things for me. And there comes a point in time when Susan is almost looking at the paper, but she's been inside the study so long, she can almost see the note happening there. You know what I mean? She can tell somebody, like, is it just what I've heard, is this a little shorter than what is implied here? So some of us were trying to understand space, the science, while Susan was trying to understand the music and the way it looked on paper. We were looking down, she was looking in. I connected with Susan, Dr. Susan Lim, in a conference in Singapore, in an Inc. conference in Singapore. Inc. is a Indian. It's like a collective of people who've thought differently, who've moved things, and it started in association with TED Global, and I was one of the first fellows. So when a smaller sized Inc. conference happened in Singapore at the Shangri-La, I had gone there in 2015-16. I had gone there to showcase a particular song, and which happened because uh, Lakshmi Praturi, who heads Inc., had me work with an American musician called George Brooks. And a beautiful piece of music happened, and I wanted to say thank you to Inc., and I went to Singapore to showcase the song and the video. Susan Liv was in the audience, and 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 she was mesmerized by what she saw on screen, the coming together of like Technicolor on a story which was rooted in reality from the northeast of India, Assam. I was speaking about one of our biggest heroes from Assam, Vishnu Rama. And just imagine for that bit, the music had happened in Bombay. I went to Singapore to showcase this, and there was Susan sitting on the front row. And then she posted that presentation where, I received a lot of love for the song. And I had gone there in a sense of gratitude. Susan asked me, like, how did you do this? I said, this is what I like doing, bringing things that have meaning into music. And we sat down for a coffee. And then Susan told me she had a story in mind. Would I like to try this? I said, this is fantastic. And so in Singapore, and there was Deepak Sharma. The three of us sat down, had a long conversation. And we met in the evening. It was like three people to a table discussing a future idea. And now we have people around the world working on on the idea and how it has gotten ahead into space, then into the oceans. It's been an amazing journey. And that's what I meant. And when I told Susan, when, we developed the whole team, we had found people in Europe who could take the music in terms of the pop sensibilities and rock sensibilities. That is on one side. Then you have the whole operatic symphonic versions. Then requires another group of people. And how they went to everybody, how they got this whole humongous team together. There's a core team. I call it the Ark of Allen. It's like Noah's Ark. And Susan has built this fantastic ark where we can all travel through time, through space, through the oceans. Trying to understand everything. Then once it's, but from three people on a table, it has gone into this amazing family, which has come together with, and which has been brought together with love and empathy. I think that's the most beautiful thing. And over 5 years, it's been an amazing journey. We've had, we talk about the songs, we love the songs, we sometimes argue about what it is. But I think the love that I've felt here has been second to none. And if in a future point of time, if you were to ask me like what I take back from here, I think it'll be love. That is what I'll take back from here. I still don't have the answer to this. My music, which I've made on a table here in Bombay, I went back to Assam and created that song. And I'm an untrained musician. I could never really learn music. I had a violin growing up. I went to some music school for a bit, but it didn't teach me much. And I completely self-trained. And then I'm meeting people who have been working at the music, looking at scores for like 25 years. It was unprecedented. And not that I'd never imagined it, or I was not in awe. I was just in gratitude. I was in gratitude of a room full of people who were sincerely trying to work on my song and bring it to the best form possible. And the Royal Philharmonic, with its different segments of strings, the string segment itself in an orchestra is the biggest. You have violins, you have violas, you have cellos, you have the double bass, horn sections, the trombones, the tubas, trumpets, clarinets. There's central piano with John Eves, currently one of the biggest pianists alive. What a flamboyant player. And all of them are trying to create that moment where they bring what you do into magic, where they turn that into a magical moment. And I really haven't framed that thought, you know what I mean? But I just, I just think life's been kind, God's been kind, you know? and and blessings come in a very different form. You have to be ready to receive, and you have to be ready to give. I and I work with them much. I make the song in this country, and then Susan sends me her ideas from wherever she is, from Singapore, France. I'm here, and I push my ideas to Mano Martin, who's sitting in Bordeaux in France. Wonderful producer. And he turns that into something that an orchestra can play, that a symphony can play. And there are more people with him who work on the nuances of each division in our symphony. But I guess we are the principal players. Yes. But I'm a small town guy. No, that's what I say. I grew up. The road in front of our house was called JB Road. So it was late after my grandfather's father-in-law. It was named after him, Joi Barua. So we have this thing called from JB Road to Abbey Road. I think no. So it's just very, very emotional for me that way. I never grew up with this music. I listened to this music later. I had a lot of love for it. I didn't grow up with this symphonic music. So culturally, I was not ingrained, though I fell in love with it later on. When I was in class 9, 10, there was my future brother-in-law who would bring me this music recorded on cassettes. And he'd studied at MIT. So he'd bring me Four Seasons by Verdi. He would bring me Mozart, Beethoven, Haydn, Chopin. So I grew up listening to a lot of that. And that also includes L. Subramaniam's fusion albums he had made at the point of time with the Russian Philharmonic, with Jean-Luc Ponty, with Stephen Grappelli. So I grew up on a lot of that. But I wasn't trained and we didn't have access to a lot of things. And now to land up in Abbey Road Studio Central, we have access to everything. So I don't know, nothing really explains this, but honesty and commitment, and not just from my end, from other ends. It's all come together. Unfortunately, there is no bigger or heavier or complicated word or sentence that I can give you. If I'm allowed, yeah. The day the Phantom was singing, I called up my friend, he's like an elder brother, Imtiaz Ali, the Indian director. And I worked with him on Laila Majnu, the music which has gone crazy. So I told Imtiaz Ji, and he was somebody who shepherded me into the movies in Indian movies as a music director. I told him, Imtiaz Ji is quite amazing, and I wanted to tell you that I'm recording with the Phantom of the Opera today. And it's unbelievable. I said, I watched the Phantom in Vegas, and I've met the Phantom here, but just to let you know that I'm recording him and he's being recorded with a super set of musicians. And he said, Joy, in India, we are used to so many things. I think you will handle this very well. Because whether you sing or he sings for you, I think everything's going into a place and he'd seen my work. I dabbled so many storylines. I'd understood so many concepts. And I think that's why, he liked my music. He says, this will flow like water. Just give yourself into it. So I think I come with a very different background of storytelling, folklore, culture, ethnicity. But then I think this song and this project, is a pure example of how global everybody could be, or universal. No one is really an island. And having said that, I don't want to take individuality or, demographic uniqueness from any artist, you know. But, you can exist. You can be born anywhere. You can exist anywhere. It will still be unique. This proves it. This project proves it. I blended with everybody. And, and the differences between a Susan Lim and me, between a Manu Martin, that is what we are celebrating in the music. That is what we are bringing to the table. Manu comes from a different school, music, with similarities. I come from a completely different thing. There's Matthew who comes from a different thing. There's Jerome. There's Ron, another composer, and he's a student of medicine. He would, he's a composer, and his song Timeless is getting awards. It went to the top. Tom Ball's version of Timeless went to the number one on iTunes Classical when it was launched. This is the differences are being celebrated. And then you understand how important it is to think differently. So that you meet a crowd where there's exchange of learning, of awareness, of growing. And the exchange of awareness and learning is the journey. See, representing the identity cannot be forced. But it's like, I am that identity. Every artist who's Indian is that identity. Just because I play guitar doesn't mean, I'm a country guy from Nashville. I'm Joi Barua from Assam. I live in Bombay. And when I sit on a song that Susan has envisioned, I bring my consciousness into it, which has been trained by my upbringing, by my land, by my forefathers. And that is what I unleash onto what's been given to me. Spice. Chili has come from Mexico to India, right? I hope I'm right. But it doesn't mean it doesn't sit well with what we eat, right? But it's good to know this comes from Mexico so that you understand that food is not just local, nothing is really local. You assimilate from every place, right? It's learning. At one point you have subjects, you have like science, you have physics, chemistry, maths, biology. Slowly, as you learn more, they converge into whether you can actually find a solution that can help somebody. I feel I can be anywhere. And that is what the East has taught me, to accept. I think India is a land of acceptance, of ideas. Our faiths, our scriptures have taught acceptance and respect for the neighbor. Understand where this is going. The philharmonic performances with symphonies around the globe look like a possibility right now because, the symphony orchestras by themselves come so well packaged. And though they are bigger productions, but the plan, I think, is easier to execute and well done. There are specific, spaces for them. There are specific audiences. So in the near future, I think this Cosmic Rhapsody, you will find it on a lot of stages with the symphonic presentations. Do it. I'll say thank you, God.